Disney's Rogue One: A Star Wars Story was not disappointing at all. Going into it, I knew it was going to be trash. I don't normally make videos like this because, quite frankly, nobody really cares about my opinion on anything. But as much as people are talking about Star Wars Rogue One, well, people were. I'm making this a little bit late, I'll admit. People are talking about Rogue One a lot, but like, there's something I never hear brought up, which was a really small moment to me, but it kind of spells out everything that's wrong with Rogue One, and that's wrong with basically all movies that come out nowadays. There's no emotional connection to any of the characters. There's no interesting story. We knew in 1977 how this movie was gonna end. And so there's, like, if you like Rogue One, fine, that's your opinion. I'm probably not gonna be able to change it, but it is fundamentally a bad movie, and that's just a fact. Like when you make a movie where the characters, where you have like many characters, but zero character, that's not a good movie. Star Wars is really important to me. The original Star Wars trilogy is what taught me what movies are and how they work. That's how I learned about the hero's journey and, how to do interesting villains and all that, but like, people are so concerned about how to make good Star Wars movies nowadays, but the truth is that we just shouldn't make Star Wars movies, because it was already done. We had 3 really good movies, and we didn't need any more. Then we got 3 really bad movies, and we really didn't need any more. And then we got a 7th movie, which was really just more like a fan fiction of the original movies. Mary Sue! And now we just have a movie that takes place in between the movies that nobody really asked for, but a lot of people were excited about for some reason. Basically, what I want to do is, I want to pitch one idea, one scene. There's a scene in Rogue One that I want to fix. Well, ultimately, to fix a scene, you need to fix a whole movie. So let's just assume that the whole movie up to this point was good. Let's assume that we have some scenes where we care about Jyn Erso and her dad, instead of just immediately having them be torn apart, and we have no interest in their separation because we don't know who they are. So let's assume that, like, at the beginning there's like a scene where her dad helps her do something. It's like really cute and sweet, and so we get to like them, and we like their bond a little bit, and then later in the movie they break up, and are torn apart, and that's the problem. So remember that scene, because you've probably seen Rogue One at this point. Do you remember that scene where they find her dad for the first time, and he's like at the hangar base or whatever, and then they like blow it up kinda, and then she like goes to her dad who's dying on the ground, and then the spaceship that the bad guys are in takes off, and the engines are like so big that they send her flying back, and then she's just like hanging over a cliff, but it's just like a wide shot, like it doesn't even close in on her being scared of hanging over a cliff. She's just like there for like half a second, and then she crawls out, she like climbs up. Okay, side note, there's no point in putting a character in a situation where they're hanging off of a cliff if they're just going to easily climb back up. It's literally pointless. There's literally no reason why that should be in there. It's just a thing that happened. Movies aren't about things that just happen. They're about connections and story overall, I just can't believe that I wrote a movie script, and it's not great or anything, but it's way better than Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And so then she just crawls right back to her dad, and and then she talks to him and he dies, and that's it. That's the scene. Just another thing happening. Ugh. So imagine this. This is my idea for that scene. How really you could improve it, like a lot, with just a couple changes. So, let's say that her dad isn't dying. He got his leg broken, but other than that, he's completely fine. And he's laying on the ground where he was in that scene. Jyn Erso goes up to him. She kneels down, you know, she starts talking to him. She's like, "Dad, oh my God, I miss you." And we're like, because we actually have some emotional connection to the character in this version of the movie. So then her dad gives that whole speech like, "Oh, I love you, and, you know, it sucks that I was taken away by the Empire. And I built these plans into the Death Star, and, you know, let's all get back to the Rebel base so that I can give them the full details about it. And then after that we can finally be together as daughter and father again, and, you know, live peacefully and happily ever after and all that." And then boom, bad guys in the spaceship, their engines, and it does that thing where it sends her back, just like in the original version. Except this time, her dad's alright. He's not about to die. And they both get sent over that cliff. And Jyn just barely catches on. She just barely, like, she's got like her fingertips on the edge and that's it. And she looks down and she sees her father falling. Is barely hanging on, and her dad is now dead because he just fell off of that cliff. Since we're emotionally attached to this character, and let's assume instead the actor or actress Felicity Jones, let's assume that she has a little bit of charisma and character instead of just being one note the whole entire movie. And so, you know, we get a close-up on her face and she's like showing emotions, she's crying and everything, like her dad just died. And then she gets her footing. So, like, you can see that she can climb up if she wants. But instead, she just lets go, and she drops. It's kind of like a callback to The Empire Strikes Back, while at the same time also being an emotional moment within itself. So, you know, it's not just fan service, it's really also its own thing, and you can kind of dissect it as fan service. It's not a robot Carrie Fisher Grand Moff Tarkin. And so then she decides to let go, and then immediately is caught by the good guys in the ship. And, I don't know, that's just one scene in Rogue One that could instantly just, like, make it a little bit better, because that movie is just fundamentally unemotional in every way. You have a movie where, at the end, spoilers, every character dies. And it's like, I don't care about any of these characters. I kinda like the blind Chinese dude, but overall, I couldn't even remember his name after I left. I assumed his character was literally called Blind Chinese Dude. And then there's the other Chinese guy who just has a gun and that's it. His character serves literally no purpose. If you CGI'd him out of the movie, it would probably be improved, because then we have one less face to attach things to when he... Literally his only story purpose is to, like, watch the blind Chinese guy die. And that's it. Then you have, like, the defunction pilot who's just kind of there. He, like, doesn't even really give him any useful information. He just, like, plugs a thing into a thing at the end. You have the French guy who had, like, a really weird kind of on and off French accent. And then you had the Saul guy. Was his name Saul? I remember his name better because it just sounds like a normal name. It was like Saul Guerrera or something. Which I think that's the name of a baseball player, but I'm not sure because I don't watch sports. And then you have the robot who's played by Alan Tudyk, who I actually really like. I mean, I like Alan Tudyk. I don't like the robot. He wasn't very funny. It was like something about the timing or something. I don't know, because like I said, I love Alan Tudyk. I love Firefly. That's like my favorite TV show of all time. But he just wasn't funny. There was like one line that I thought was funny. When he's like, oh, 0 hostiles detected, and then the guy raises his gun. He's like, ah, 1 hostile. Like, I found that funny. And I think there was one other line, but I can't remember it because, like, 90% of this movie is extremely forgettable. And as I've stated, Jen Erso has no character and was played by an actress who just doesn't have charisma. I watched her opening monologue on Saturday Night Live, just like on YouTube, and it was like, it's like she's allergic to charisma, you know. Some people are made to act and some people aren't. I just don't understand why so many people liked Rogue One. And granted, I haven't watched like a lot of reviews. I watched all the Red Letter Media stuff that they did covering it because I love Red Letter Media. But ultimately, it's just a boring movie that has no emotion. And that's really just what makes it bad. It's not, you know, that's it. Like, there's no other problem that ruins it. It's really just that we have no emotional connection to the characters. The cinematography was nice when you could see things, when it wasn't like really, really dark, visually speaking. Also, it's just kind of hard to take it all serious when the villains are in like white plastic suits with giant bobbleheads. Like, it works in Star Wars, but it doesn't work in Rogue One because they're taking themselves like too seriously. You know, one of my friends, I asked him why he liked Rogue One.
Every time someone's like, I like it, I'm like, why?
Because he really liked it, and he was like, oh, because it adds to the universe. Who gives a poopy about the universe if it's not entertaining? I don't think he ever said anything about how he was entertained by the movie. All he said was that it added to the universe. Keep in mind, this is my friend. I don't think he's an idiot, but, like, wow. It adds to the universe, but it's also really boring, and I didn't like it. But I have to because it's Star Wars. The prequels were actually good. So I'm just kind of gonna leave now. I can't really think of like a good note to end on, like a funny Star Wars pun or something. I don't know. Rogue One sucked. This video is sponsored by Disney.